Hello, everyone. I am Lucas Casonato, professor of economics at the Pontifícia Universidade Católica do Paraná, here in Brazil. Since my PhD dissertation, I have been researching into the economic thought of Israel Kirzner. The article I present today is entitled Israel Kirzner's Presence in the History of Economic Thought, a review of his professional engagement in honor of his 91 years. This article can be interpreted in two ways. First, from a personal point of view, it pays tribute to this personality who has been so important to the prestige of Austrian ideas. Second, from a history of economic thought point of view, because it offers a summary of what other authors and I have argued about Kirzner's importance in economics. The article traces Kirzner's trajectory, contextualizing his contributions among the different academic challenges that he faced to take Ludwig Mises' ideas to the rest of the profession. My analysis takes as a starting point this posture of approximation with theorists of other approaches, a position here called professional engagement. This is the subject of the second section of the article. This Kirzner's initiative, as will be argued, was important in helping the Austrian School's recovery during the 1970s and in bringing to the light the entrepreneurial function that was neglected in economic theory. In the third section, I retrieve the recent history of Austrian School and divide into three parts. First, from the 1950s to the 1970s, a period called pre-revival. Second, during the 1970s, a period is known as the Austrian Revival. And third, from the 1980s onwards, the post-revival period. In the pre-revival period, I point out that Kirzner's perspective was that there was no longer an Austrian School of Economics anymore, especially as the school's main economists dispersed to different regions in the world, and a misinterpretation of the calculus debate led to the perception that the Austrian argument was not valid. For these and other factors, the Austrian schools seemed to not to have any other important contributions for the professor. Despite this, Kirzner sought Mises' advisor for his PhD dissertation. And as early as the 1960s, he published his first materials seeking to clarify the Austrian point of view about various topics. Regarding the Austrian Revival period, which has already been extensively explored in the literature, I emphasize the importance of Kirzner in his participation in the South European Conference, the posture of keeping Mises and Hayek's thesis together, the achievement of institutional support at New York University to maintain an Austrian economics studies program, and the publication of his book, Competition and Entrepreneurship, which starts the entrepreneurship research agenda among the Austrians and carried to the rest of the economists. The post-revival period was characterized by the reestablishment of the Austrian School, when attempts were made to define what would be the core of its theoretical body based on different interpretations among Austrians. From pre to post-revival, Kirzner's ideas were aimed almost exclusively at those who did not know or even ignored Mises' contributions. After the revival, Kirzner's efforts were directed towards influencing the Austrians themselves with the joint approach he had been using since the 1996 that brought together Misesian and Hayekian contributions to the market process. Despite this new direction, Kirzner has not failed to devote efforts to take Mises' ideas to the rest of the profession. Above all, he employed a comparative approach to contrast the Austrian interpretations with that of other theories, such as Marxism and Keynesianism. Therefore, the history of economic thought was an important background to Kirzner's approach different currents of thoughts in economics. In the fourth section, I comment on the theoretical contribution for which Kirzner was best known in economic literature, that of entrepreneurship. I remember that traces of his ideas on the entrepreneurial function are spread since his first works, and these were put together in the 1967 article and then consolidated into deeper discussion application in the 1973 book. The core of the Kirznerian thesis brings together the contributions of Mises and Hayek in the proposal that entrepreneurial profit is created by the entrepreneur. This is because this profit is understood as an opportunity for pure gain, which can be identified in the market from two perspectives. The Misesian point of view that considers that this profit can be created by human action in the uncertainty of the market, and the Hayekian point of view that considers profit is present in the knowledge differential between economic agents. With his theoretical proposal, Kirzner challenged the traditional economic interpretation of taking on profit-maximizing firms under given market conditions. This vision was replaced by the entrepreneur who acts spontaneously, creating endogenous factors that change the market. Kirzner's non-isolationist instance made him one of the main personalities in the history of economic thought, both for his collaboration in reestablishing the Austrian School within the economist profession and for his theoretical contribution on entrepreneurship, a topic then neglected by traditional theory. Some evidence suggests this importance of Kirzner, such as the mention of his theory in the work of mainstream authors, such as Markowski and Auster in the discussion of price theory in 2001, receiving the Global Award for Entrepreneurship Research in 2006, a widespread expectation that Kirzner would be one of the Nobel Prize winners in economics in 2014, and the recognition as a distinguished fellow by the History of Economic Society in 2018. Having presented his ideas at the same time as the microeconomic theory of prices, it is possible to argue that Kirzner has offered a new theory of competition with a greater degree of realism, since it is independent of the predetermined conditions for satisfying equilibrium states. Thank you for your attention.